of funky cursors. So I'm just going to turn off the cursors so we don't get bothered here. So, all right, cool. Move this out of the way. All right, so folks, this is Raz here speaking.
And Anna.
Super excited to be here, as we mentioned before. Just a few words about ourselves. My name is Raz. I've been doing UX and product design over the last 7 years, actually more. I'm a certified UX expert by the Nielsen Norman Group. And just a funky fact about me, I typically only cook carbonara spaghetti because that's the only thing I know how to cook. Everything else is a disaster, even omelets. So that's my thing. And
but
yeah,
it's super good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I with a humble brag, it's really good carbonara. I love it. And if you want, I'm super happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. If you have further questions after the event, if you want to follow the stuff that we're doing, we're going to accept the invitation, and we're there to talk about anything that you want to talk about. And Anna?
Hey folks, I'm Anna. I'm a product strategist and I've been working with digital products for the past 7 years, both B2B, B2C. I'm also a certified UX expert by the Energy Group. And one fun thing about me, I am a shoeaholic by season and I truly do not know anyone who owns more shoes than I do.
And
I'm not sure if that's a good thing necessarily, but please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm really open to talk about anything related to products or workshops.
All right, awesome. A few words about our consultancy and what we do. We're called Just Mad. We're a product design consultancy. We basically live in the world of design thinking, innovation, and digital growth. Basically, we use workshops. That's the only format in which we work. Everything that we do is in a workshop-based approach. We've been remote since 2017, ever since the conception of the agency. If you want to learn more about the stuff that we do, there's a few links in here. We also have, for those of you who are familiar with Miro, we have a library of templates available here in the Miroverse. So if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, we'll be more than happy to connect. We also have a very, very interesting, and we've had the pleasure to work with a lot of great companies. These are just some of them. We work with UiPath, DBS, Freeletics for the German people out there. We actually work with Miro as a client, Fitbit, and ClassDojo, among others. It's been a real pleasure working with these awesome companies. And just to give you a summary of what will happen today, we're going to give you a very short story about how we got into getting to do workshops, because it's an interesting story that we actually never thought about. We never considered workshops as a viable business. It more like workshops found us than the other way around. So the story, I think, is really, really important because it might give you a good idea of how we got here. We're going to talk about what is this whole workshop thing about, why you should care about it, how it can actually impact your career. And it doesn't really matter if you're part of a team, like an in-house designer, or you're a consultant or a freelancer. Everyone can use workshops, and that is a promise. And as we said at the beginning and in all the promotional stuff, we have 3 workshops that we're giving away so we can use them out of the box in a tool like Miro. And as Sylvia mentioned, there's plenty of time for Q&A, so make sure to stick around, and we're more than happy to answer literally all of your questions. And without further ado, I will just get everyone's attention here for a second. So I'm just going to turn on the cursor thing. If you can just follow us here. I would bring everyone to us, but we cannot because we're a guest editor. Sylvia, can you help us out a little bit here?
Bring everyone where we have the roles.
Yeah, so in the black box that says, what is your role? Can you just click on your avatar in the top right and bring everyone to you? We cannot do that because we're not board admins.
Can I give you the admin? Oh my God, 90 people moving to my cursor. What's so funny.
Whoa. That was fun.
I was like, wake up, girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just if it's going crazy, folks, just click somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or actually, you know what, folks, just could be easier for you. Just at the top right, there's kind of some profile pictures and a big number like 85 or something like that. And if you click on that, there's a search by name, and just search Just Mad, JUST, and then hit just Mad and click on follow, and then you'll be able to see what we're seeing. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
All right, you got it.
Okay, and people are starting already to place their cursor
next
to the role that they have.
Yeah, now you already guessed it. Look at the box and tell us what your role is. So the first one is UX UI designer. Second one is product designer, product manager, web designer, graphic designer, and other. So just hover your mouse so we can get an idea of who we're speaking to. All right, so a lot of UX UI, a few product designers, some others. All right, perfect. All right, cool. So you're, all right, you found it. Everyone else? All right, we got a pretty good idea of who you folks are. All right, let's move forward then with the next part. All righty, so we want to tell you a little bit about our story and how we actually got into doing workshops, because we believe a lot of you, since you're UX designers, product designers, and basically designers in general, we believe you're going to share some of these experiences with us, and we're certain you have. So we basically started off by being the classic design agency. Clients would come to us, they would say, hey, here's a brief, we want to get this done, here's an app, here's a website, here's some kind of software that we want to build. And naturally, we would kind of follow the design thinking process and hold a whole bunch of meetings, but sometimes clients would just book random meetings with us. So things were a little bit hectic. And we have a very simple exercise for you here. So if you're still following us, read this question. Have you ever been in a meeting or work session and you asked yourself, what am I doing here? You literally were in a meeting and you had no idea what you're doing there. If you felt that, just hover your mouse on top of the yes box. Or if you haven't, just hover it on a note box. Let's see what we have here. Oh, okay. All right. So it seems like quite a good part of you have been in a meeting and you were like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Why did someone have to bother me in my work day to get into a meeting that I have no idea about? All right. So it seems that we're sharing that same feeling. Oh, let's move on to the next question. Have you ever felt like that in a meeting? Just overall exhausted, disengaged, almost like you were falling asleep. All right. All right. So yeah, for those, just follow us in the next questions right underneath. All right, perfect. And now the third question, have you ever been in a meeting? Pay attention. Have you ever been in a meeting at the end of which the only conclusion was that you need another meeting, right? So you basically got together for 40 minutes, 1 hour, maybe even 2 hours, and nothing really got done, but you literally had to do another meeting because of that. All right, perfect. And I think we have a winner here. All right, perfect. And that's the same way that we felt. And Anna, if you could please take over.
Yeah, it's super cool to take the polls. And yeah, to be honest, after working with so many amazing teams, we realized that the way we approach collective work sessions was not quite optimal. And especially now in the specific context that we found ourselves, like, you have to work remotely. And a lot of teams we've worked with struggle with this new format. And we often hear things like, there's no structure and things feel random. You feel like you've just wasted your time. Or another challenge is that there's no clear purpose or outcome. So just meeting for the sake of starting a conversation around the topic, but not necessarily reaching a common agreement or not having a clear structure that could drive a specific outcome. Another challenge that we usually hear is that we've noticed that the loudest person in the room wins, and this is happening more often than we would like to. Probably remember that annoying classmate that would always, raise their hands, and even if they're not being asked, well, that person grew up and it's probably your colleague or someone else's colleague. That person still exists. And another one, not everyone is equally involved. Maybe you don't have enough time to do, to make yourself heard, or the meeting structure is faulty and it doesn't support an open environment where anyone can get a chance to speak. And the last one, wasting everyone's valuable time, and time is quite valuable nowadays. And I'm going to repeat myself a bit here, but in our current context, with not being able to work together in an office, even a simple conversation can turn into never ending call. Yep. So I know people that need to book their lunch in their calendar, otherwise they won't get a chance to eat. So yeah, the struggle is quite real, and it was quite frustrating for us as well at the beginning. And we thought that, okay, after hearing and experiencing all these things on and on, Rez and I decided that it is time to do something about it. And we started to figure out how to help our clients and ourselves. The first time we actually had an epiphany, it was after discovering the design sprint. And this was a game changer for us. And it completely changed the way we look at solving problems and working with clients. I mean, coming up with a validated prototype in just 5 days, that is crazy. Yeah. So we loved it, our clients loved it, the community loved it, everyone loved it. So we started to think, okay, so what was so fantastic about this process, about this new way of working? And then we thought, okay, let's just take a minute here and deconstruct the whole mechanism of the design sprint and see what actually happens in the sprint, what makes it so fucking amazing. And the recipe is fairly simple. If you look at the design thinking toolkit and all the stages that you go through, from empathizing with customers to...
Let me just play a video here, kind of visually understand what's happening.
So if you look at the design thinking framework and all the stages that you go through, from empathizing with customers to testing out your solution, we have a plethora of methods and activities that you can run. So what the sprint does actually takes some great exercises and methods from the design thinking toolkit and assembles them in a structured way to achieve a certain outcome. And boom, there you have it, a successful recipe for evaluating an idea super fast.
Yeah, and yep.
Okay, so now moving away from the design sprint a bit, which is a process, I'd like to focus a bit on workshops. So what is a workshop? And we have here a definition. It is a strategic and well-structured gathering that has a clear purpose where people align, discuss, and co-create. In other words, it's just a better way of getting things done together. So this is our secret sauce when we run workshops. And believe me, we use it every single time we design a workshop or when we run one. So no exceptions. The formula is quite simple. As you can see, we call it the 5 Ps of successful workshops. And it goes something like this. Everything starts with the purpose. So the question is, why do you want to run this workshop in the first place? What are you trying to achieve? And we start writing down, the purpose and what we expect out of the workshop. Then we look at people and who needs to be in the workshop. And here we try to identify key people or key stakeholders or key participants that have some valuable input that they can bring on the table. And then with that group of people, we go through certain activities or a structured process. Everything is time boxed and we achieve a certain outcome. So we call that outcome the product of the workshop. So with the sprint, it's a validated prototype. In a growth workshop, you can have a list of experiments ready to implement and so on. So you can get really creative with any type of workshop that you have, as long as you have the purpose, the people, the process, and the outcome, the product.
And of course, one thing, really important thing to mention here, everything that happens in a workshop has a very strong preparation component. That's why it's the 5 Ps, because everything is framed by the right kind of preparation.
For us, running workshops turned into a full-time business and we absolutely love them. And there are a couple of reasons why we love them. The first one is they foster a collaborative mindset. So even if you might have to work individually in a workshop, at a certain point, you still work in a team and you're still trying to achieve like a collective outcome that the whole team is trying to achieve. So the second one is you can replace irrelevant meetings. You can actually design pretty short sessions that will make your life so much easier. The third reason is they're very fun and you can be very productive in a group session. Then you can finally work in a structured way and keep that momentum going. And you can actually, focus quite well on what you have to do with no distractions. And the last one, it's 100% compatible with the remote format and you can actually scale them at large.
Awesome. So that's kind of the reason why we fell in love with workshops. All of these things that Anna mentioned, we've kind of learned from the design sprint. We got so struck by the way work was done in a design sprint, and everyone, our clients, even ourselves included, were so immensely impressed by what can be done that we tried to kind of repeat the same system. We thought to ourselves, how can we apply the same logic that happens in a design sprint of structured work, time boxing, and how can we apply to other design thinking stages, right? So that's kind of what we wanted to achieve here. And through a lot of trial and error, we landed on this, and we're actually going to show some workshops to you. So we want to show you how this looks like in practice. And for that, I will just take my iPad for a second, and I will try to draw something for you. So just as a quick note, just allow me real quick to take over my iPad. All right. So basically, imagine this this scenario. So hold on one thing. I think I need to send myself the link. All right, because we changed the board. Hold on, people. Just bear with us for just a second.
No, it's sharing this from.
Yeah, Sylvia, can you please add the link, because I cannot really grab the link to the mural board here. Can you just add the link in the chat?
Okay, which one?
The link to the mural board, the actual mural link.
Okay, yeah.
Can you just please add it to the chat one more time? That would be great. Thank you. I will just grab it so I can connect with my tablet as well.
Just a second, we're connected to Zoom.
Yep.
The tablet.
Just getting this set up, no worries.
Need some music in the background.
Yeah, we need some really, yeah, it's perfectly fine. Doesn't seem to work. Huh. All right.
This is actually a great demo of what can happen in a workshop.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me just stop screen sharing here for just a second so we can send this over. All right, so for those of you who just joined us, also join us in the Miro. We'll be there in just a second. Being a facilitator involves some things like this. Something can always happen that might delay that. So this is actually learning by doing. So hopefully, all right, we're here.
Messenger.
All right. Cool. How can I just copy this? Why is it so difficult? Open in Safari. All right, there we go. We're here. All right, problem solved. Let's screen share again. Boom. All right, here we are. So keep a good eye out here. So basically, what we wanted to show you is how our approach changed the moment when we had a new project to kick off, right? I'm basically going to show you how things worked before we did a workshop format and how it looked like afterwards. So let me just find the board here and start drawing using my semi-good drawing skills. So, all right, keep an eye out for this. So, all right, perfect. So before we discover workshops, a project kickoff would look something like this. We'd had a bunch of people sending out calendar invites, and they would be thrown into a meeting without knowing exactly what's going to happen. Okay. So people gathered and we're like, okay, we're going to kick off a new project. Okay, what needs to happen in order for, what needs to happen in order to get something to that meeting? And going to a specific goal, let's point with a star, was confusing. What was the goal? Okay, we have a project kickoff. What do we want to get out of it? So you get all of these people involved in here. And as the session was going, as the project kickoff was going, we were asking a lot of questions, right? So let's mark ourselves. So this is Raz and Anna. Anna and Raz. So we were asking a lot of questions. We were asking people, okay, what about this? What about that? And what we would see happen is only a few people would actually engage. So we would have one or two people, typically the main stakeholder or one of the team members, and they would be the only ones kind of saying something. All right. These are meant to be chat bubbles. And everyone else kind of zoned out. They would basically not engage. And we would end up from, let's say, a meeting of 7 people or 5 or 6 or 7 people, we would end up in a conversation of 4. So that was obviously not great because we obviously need to understand what everyone else's opinion is, not just 1 or 2 people. And that is the behavior that we've seen. Now, moving down a little bit to understand what happened afterwards, after discovering workshops, we had a completely different strategy. We started with the goal. Okay.
Just a short disclaimer here. Raz is actually a fantastic designer.
Yeah, but you know, like drawing with Apple Pen is not the same thing. Yeah, don't let this fool you. So you have a goal, right? We always start with the goal. Why are we booking people's calendar? Why are we doing this in the first place? What is the goal? That's the first thing you would absolutely do. What is the goal? After you decide on the goal, you choose the right people. You build your workshop team. You build the people that you actually want to bring into the session. And these people all have something to say. So they are valuable. And we make sure that if we're booking their calendar, it's for the greater good. It's because we want them to work towards the goal. And what happened from this format of a session where people are just thrown randomly into a session without knowing what's going to happen, without a clear way of achieving our goal and being disengaged in the same time, we basically got in the right people. And what we did is we started sort of a journey that had a very clear pathway towards our goal. All right. And then step by step, the group, right? This is the group, would be progressing from one stage to another. Once one stage is completed, we move on to the next one. And every single part of this experience is perfectly designed to get us to our goal as efficient as possible. And this is basically how you can conceptually think about a workshop and how it's completely different from this kind of messy format that no one really understands why they're there, what needs to happen, how long it's going to take. So this is basically the kind of state of order that we managed to land on. And we actually have an example that we want to share with you. And this is a small component of an exercise that we call the empathy waterfall. And this is one of the workshops that we'll actually share with you. So, for example, if we wanted to understand exactly what problem we're trying to solve and what are the challenges that we're facing and the reason why we're here, we would basically have a Miro board like the one you're seeing here. And everything is time boxed in our workshops. So we have a clear question. What is the problem about? And then a description. In individual work areas, think about the problems, challenges our audience is having. And notice here that we have these boxes with names, right? And what we would do as a preparation for a session like this, where we want to get everyone's opinion on what problem we're trying to solve, we would add their names in these boxes, and every single person will have their own individual area, as you can see here. So what we would do, we have instructions in each of these areas, and we would tell people, okay, what is the problem about? What are we trying to solve? What's the challenge that we're targeting? And then every single person would follow the instructions in here and individually, in silence, would try to write down their best interpretation or their suggestion of what the problem is. And obviously, they can brainstorm multiple problems. That's perfectly fine. And all of this is done in silence. No random session where people are just shouting on top of each other and not really understand what everyone else is saying. Even more so in a remote environment, that gets even more complicated because you don't really get the cue if someone wants to talk. And I'm sure you've been in a Zoom call where three people started talking all in the same time. So that is obviously not a great way of getting work done. So instead, what we did, we replaced everything with individual alone time where people can clearly think in silence about all the problems that they see from their personal perspective, from their role in the business. Okay, so this is just an example. Let's say we have an audience, we're talking about doctors, and we want to brainstorm what problems doctors have, right? That's the goal. And then everyone does this for 5 minutes. Everyone brainstorms on their own without talking on what the problems might be. And everyone kind of comes up with their own versions. And then what we do in order to make sure everyone is aligned and to make sure what the opinion of the group is, not just individually, we would do a voting session. So basically, after we finish the 5 minutes of coming up with problems, we would just have a bunch of sticky notes here. I'm just going to place a few sticky notes here to kind of trial this. So we'll transfer the sticky notes from the top, and we would basically just end up with a huge grid of sticky notes. So it would look something like this. So we would have sticky notes here, sticky notes there, and then you just collect all of them in one place. And then we would tell people, okay, it's time to vote. And the same way as before, everyone has their own set of voting dots. So in the end, you will end up, the board is locked, but basically what will happen, people will just drag these red dots on the sticky notes that they believe reflect the best challenge that we want to work on. So essentially, we've kind of replaced that open-ended conversation where people were just throwing in ideas and not really making a lot of sense. We kind of democratized the decision-making process. And this is a really great exercise for us as facilitators because we can actually see how well aligned people are. And it happens so many times that we will work with, let's say, a team of 8, and then 4 people would skew towards one problem and 4 people to another problem. There's obviously some misalignment going on in there. And this type of work format really helped us in making work so much more efficient. So just to recap, everyone brainstorms on their own in silence, and then we vote on them together. So this is just an example of how we do our kickoff sessions now, and everybody loves it. This is an absolute promise. Everyone loves the way these workshops work. And every single time people just write us after discovery session, they're so impressed. They love the format. It's finally making sense. Everything is structured. So basically, you might be asking yourself, like, why should you care about this whole thing? Why are these 2 people here talking about workshops? Because how can that help you and your career? So basically, and this is something we're happy to back. Workshop facilitation is an in-demand skill. And especially in remote settings, it's even so much more in demand because being able to lead a group of people towards a specific outcome in a structured way is just incredibly, incredibly valuable. And if you don't believe me, we have some proof here. Upwork actually has a specialized rubric for facilitators, and they have a list of people who will facilitate online workshops and sessions. So basically, there is a proof from one of the biggest players in the freelancing market that facilitation is an in-demand skill. And for us, we honestly sell workshop packages starting at 10,000 euros and up. That is the cost at which we do workshops. And we just wanted to share this with you to show you that there are clients out there who are willing to pay 10K euros and up minimum to do a workshop. We don't have any workshops that are under 10K, and we have a huge library of workshops. So there is demand out there, and we literally right now we're completely booked until April, and we cannot take any more work. This is just a proof to show you exactly how much demand exists for these kinds of activities. And on top of that, the World Economic Forum released a survey result, sort of a study showing the top 10 skills that will be in high demand for 2025. And a lot of these have some very, very common ground with the act of facilitation. So that means working with people, complex problem solving. These are the kind of skills that people need to get done. And even if the facilitator role itself does not perfectly match in any of these, analytical thinking and innovation, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative, these all connect to the value that workshops can actually bring. Right. So in essence, facilitation as a definition is the art of creating an environment and an experience where people can achieve an outcome effectively. It's the opposite of random meetings. It's the opposite of tiring meetings where people don't really get engaged. That what facilitation is the art of you as a designer, maybe us, maybe anyone can actually become a facilitator and do these kinds of workshops. And to use a metaphor here, imagine that this is your client's team, or maybe your internal team, right? Your product team or whatever it might be. And imagine you're a group of basketball players that want to win the World Cup, all right, for basketball. And basically, in order to get there, you need all the individual powers of those people. You need the stamina, you need the strength, you need the quality of the shooting at hoops. But we want you to kind of think about this way, that the facilitator is like the basketball coach, right? Not an agile coach, not an educational coach, but more like a basketball coach. They don't really play, they don't take part in the activities, but they are directly responsible for leading the team to success. That's kind of the metaphor that we'd like to stick with you, that your team or your client is this basketball team trying to win the cup, and then you as a facilitator, you're the coach in that team, leading them to success, making sure everyone's staying on track, making sure the strategies are right. So basically, this is what we want you to think about. And in essence, what happens in a workshop, the facilitator builds a world. They build a specific universe that has an opening, has it's kind of core, and then has a closing. A workshop that begins will always end. And inside this world, the facilitator is responsible with taking people through this journey. And we're going to show you exactly what this journey might look like.
So probably you've noticed at this point that we love to use metaphors. So we have another one for you. Imagine a successful workshop is this beautiful, beautiful tree that we have in front of us. So what makes this tree so beautiful and strong? And well, we have three pillars that are basically the feeding roots, if you may. So the first one is setting up the stage for success. The second one is orchestrating the session with style. And the third one, managing the team effectively. I'm going to dive deep into each of them and give you some tips and tricks. So for setting up the stage for success, you want to make sure that you choose the right workshop for achieving a specific outcome. You don't want to just plug and play any type of workshop that you find, or that you've read of, just to make, just to use it for the sake of that. Then make sure that you manage expectations. Bless you.
Bless you.
Make sure that you explain clearly what's about to happen and what you're going to achieve. Then you have to pick the right team, as we mentioned before. Make sure that you bring in only the people that actually have some valuable input for the workshop. Scheduling is super critical now, especially in the remote environment. So make sure that you don't schedule sessions too early in the morning or too late in the evening, because that's going to be frustrating for participants. And then make sure that you handle logistics such as, location or materials. If you have to, this is in person, but online, make sure that you have an online canvas. You can use Miro or any other option available to you. And moving forward, we have the orchestrating the session with style. This is very, very important as a facilitator, because you need to lead people through certain activities. So first of all, you need to understand the workshop mechanics inside and out. So if you have people, asking why you have to do a certain activity and what will be the outcome or how they will connect, you have to be able to explain and make sure that you actually have a story behind it. Then you have to set the outcome and guide people to it. Again, this is everything that has to do with the mechanics of the workshop, and make sure that people stay on time and on topic. So every single time you see that people start having a lot of conversations, or they things go south, you have to make sure that you bring them back and you re-engage them in what they have to do. And lastly, you have to manage the team effectively. You have to keep participants focused. So you have to be sure that, when you prepare the workshop, you don't have long, exhausting sessions without breaks, or you have to make sure that you engage them quite often so they don't get distracted or bored. If you just have a 20-minute presentation, then people are gonna get distracted and probably go on Netflix or do something else. But if you keep them doing stuff, then they're gonna be focused there. Make sure everyone is involved and heard. This is super important. You can have individual workspaces for everyone, so no more lousy, loudy people that can, just take over the conversation. So you also have to be the source of information. You have to be very knowledgeable of the workshop that you're running and the process that you're going to run. Then monitor the mood and react accordingly. I know that sometimes this might be difficult because people are not willing to share their webcam, but you can also take the pulse using other methods, and we're going to show you some pretty cool things. And then mitigate conflicts. You have to be able to just step in and make sure that there are no conflict makers, or you make sure troublemakers, yeah. And then you make sure that the flow stays as it should. So now, how do you actually get started with facilitation? There's no other way than just doing it. Simple as that. So you can read about it, you can watch as many webinars as you want, but you won't get a great facilitator until you start facilitating workshops or sessions.
Exactly. And on that topic, we actually want to launch an invitation to folks. We have a program that is called Facilitation Jams. And basically just a small shameless plug for something that we're doing for the community. This is basically a place where designers, PMs, and consultants can get into a place where they can practice their facilitation skills in a safe environment. We've basically created this community where people can feel safe to make mistakes while trying to learn about workshops, because it took us quite a long time to learn all the things that we've learned, and we want to share that with the community. We want to help people become better facilitators, because honestly, we feel workshops are the cure for those irrelevant meetings. So a very nice quote that we love, and we really stand by, is that if that tiring meeting is the headache, a workshop is the aspirin. So we like to use this, and we really want to get a lot of people to get excited about workshops, to learn about facilitation. So if you're interested in joining Facilitation Jams, add us on LinkedIn. It's an invite-only community. We really want to grow it in kind of a slow pace, because we're still trying to find the best way of delivering this to as many people as possible. So definitely add us on LinkedIn and write us a message if you're interested in doing that. And just what to expect from Facilitation Jams. You're going to learn how we design our workshops, how we actually create them from scratch, discover new workshop formats. We're working on workshops every single month, and we're looking at various ways of implementing them and taking regular activities and turning them into workshops. For example, last week, we took an entire in-person hackathon. And a company that was actually responsible for running these hackathons, of course, in the context of COVID, it was a very, very interesting time. So we completely moved their in-person process to a scalable digital one. So we designed workshops for an actual living. So if you want to learn how it's like to be in a workshop, whether you want to observe or you want to actively participate or facilitate, that's perfectly fine. You're going to get even more insight on what the benefits of workshops are. You can practice your facilitation skills in a safe environment without being afraid that you're going to make a mistake or someone's going to judge you. We don't accept that. People don't, everyone's there to learn, right? And then you can also connect with like-minded people. We have 43 people in the community right now, and we're kind of slowly growing it, as we said. So as we've promised, we have 3 workshops that we want to share with you. The first one is a journey mapping workshop. We use journey mapping quite a lot. We want to map experiences. We want to see the users flow through certain products or services. So we've created this journey mapping workshop that we use every single time we need something like that to map a customer experience, and we want to get alignment on what pain points they face in a customer journey. The second is the empathy waterfall. We're going to show that in just a second. It's all about getting people in one place to kind of get a common ground and set the stage for a successful project. And then third Let me just admit a few people. And the third one is our absolute favorite, and I think one of
Superstar.
our superstar is the remote design sprint. We were some of the first people to do remote design sprints and actually create a template, and we give it out for free to anyone. So on a remote design sprint, these two, we're going to show them to you now. But the remote design sprint, if you follow this link here at the top, if you can see that, you can go to the Miroverse, which is sort of Miro's kind of curated library of templates. So the remote design sprint is pretty big, so we're not going to cover it today. But basically, if you want to learn more about the remote design sprint, we also have a 4-part YouTube series that we explain exactly how we do remote design sprint. So that is out for you. Feel free to watch it. Feel free to use it. And before we look into, actually, no, you know what? Let's look at the workshops first.
So before we launch or we start any type of activity in a workshop, we always make sure that we have something prepared before that. So we always have a welcome card, which is typically the company's logo, or if you have, I don't know, if you're working with a team and you have a name, you can place it there. You can add the workshop name and the date. What we do here, we try to find photos with the participants, and also we attach ourselves as facilitators. But if you don't have access to people's photos, then probably you can just add some superstars or superheroes, people like that. We always make sure that we explain the rules that we have during workshops, because they are not allowed to use other devices. They have to turn off notifications. We explain that everything is time boxed, and even though it seems a bit unnatural to work that way, it's going to be very efficient. And then we also mentioned that we're going to discuss only when we have discussions. And then we have a quick agenda so that everyone knows what happens and when. And the first template that we're going to show you is the user journey mapping. This is a very super easy workshop to do. This is for, when you want to do a journey map together with a group of people. And take it with a pinch of salt, because there are a lot of flavors when it comes to journey maps, and there are tons of ways that you can visualize them, and there's no one correct way. Of course, there are a couple of elements that you should always keep in mind. For this example, how we start the workshop, first we explain a bit the context, and then we give an example of what a particular outcome or a user journey would look like. So here we have, if you can zoom in a bit, we have a journey map for someone who wants to buy a car, and the goal is to buy a new car. Then we have the stages that this person is going through, then some user activities attached to each stage, some emotional experiences. And here we can get really crazy and very creative with how we want to display these. So you can use emojis, or you can even add some goofy GIFs or whatever. You can be very creative here. And then you can have pain points attached to each stage. And then you can also add some opportunities if you may. You see here we have the first exercise. As Rez mentioned, we want to make sure that if you are doing this as a group, we want to make sure that everyone has something to add, and we have individual workspaces. But let's say if you have a very good group dynamic and people are quite responsive and they want to collaborate, you can also have a conversation. But this is really highly depending on the team that you're working on. We would recommend to have individual workspaces just to make sure that everyone gets their ideas out, and then you can have a chance to explore all of them. Everything is time boxed, and after everyone, we use the timer. Maybe we can do a quick demo of how the timer would
we're going to do the demo over the mood check.
Okay, perfect. And then we just extract all the goals, we paste them below, and we have one voting dot for each participant. You can do voting in two ways. You can either use the red dots the way we do, because we like to mimic the real feeling of having a voting dot, but you can also use the voting feature that they have, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. We just like to see actually the red dots on the sticky notes. Okay, the second exercise is a group exercise, and here you start mapping the experience of the user. You have their time, and then you have some instructions. And basically what you do, you start brainstorming together what are the steps that a customer or user has to go through to achieve their end goal. And then the first thing that you want to do, you want to add your audience user on the left side, and then you have to define the end goal. And then after you decide, you define these two, you have to fill in the steps that they have to take in between.
Yeah. And here, Sylvia, can you please unlock the board for a little second? Because I just noticed we have to delete this. So notice here in this specific template, there's something interesting that we did. We've hidden the next exercise, and you're going to understand exactly why. And these are just some things that we discovered as we were designing a lot of workshops. We noticed that there's some small tips and tricks that you can employ here. So Sylvia, can you please unlock the entire thing so I could show people what's happening here? Let me know.
Just a second.
I want to show this kind of quirky little interesting thing that we typically do here.
The whole board?
Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe you can unlock the rest of the content then.
Yeah, just for a few seconds. After that, we're going to be able to unlock it back. Oh, for some reason it. Ooh, what happened? Whoop.
I don't know. It's frozen for me.
Really? It's frozen for you completely?
Yeah. I didn't do anything. It's not my fault.
I think there's too many people. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's try something. Let's yeah, you broke it.
Can you reload the page maybe?
Yeah, let me
it's back again.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's back again.
It's okay. All right, let's see if it's revived. All right, perfect.
Okay, it works.
All right, seems to be okay. Can you, it's still not unlocked? Can you try that again? Hopefully it's not gonna.
So the reason why we lock content is because we don't want to overload,
All right, there we go.
Our participants.
So basically the reason why we kind of covered this is because as they're focusing on exercise number 2, which is mapping the experience, we don't want to be distracted by what's about to happen next. So we kind of try to blend this in. But once we're finished with the second exercise, we delete this. And this is exercise number 3, where we want to capture the user thoughts and feelings. So now that we have the journey, we have all the steps that the audience goes through, we want to understand exactly how they feel. Mm-hmm. So whether it's a good experience, it's an average experience, it's a bad experience, basically move these around and kind of try to match the right step. And for every single step of the journey, what we want to do is to understand exactly what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And that's why we have the example here at the top. Right? So let me just Command Z all of these things.
And make sure you use this tactic of covering content, or let's call it progressive disclosure, because people usually tend to get curious and they can get easily distracted about what's happening next. And they're just curious to see, okay, what we're going to do next. They're not paying attention. So the best way to keep them focused on one action or one activity at a time, just hide content from them.
Just a very simple way of making this happen and just getting people focused.
Okay, the fourth exercise that we have for this workshop is an individual exercise, and they have to identify pain points. Here we have 5 minutes allocated, and as you can see, we have individual workspaces for each participant. We add their names there, and then everyone can brainstorm together what's the pain point associated with each step or each phase that they're going through.
Yeah, and basically this is what happens when we try to journey map. And this is a very, very effective method. And it typically takes around 45 minutes. But of course, as Anna mentioned, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, because if you have, let's say, a very complex journey, that's obviously going to take or multiple audiences and multiple channels and multiple touch points. I mean, the UXers out there can know that maps can become very, very complex and quite overwhelming. So just make sure that you're aware of the time and just let people know that maybe it's not going to be 45 minutes. If you know you're going to work on a very big project, allocate more time or probably do double sessions. Right? Like this is what we're doing right now. We're working with a startup now, and it's impossible for us to do the map even in 2 hours. So we had to do multiple sessions. So this is the first giveaway workshop that we have, the journey map. And then the second one is the empathy waterfall, which we really, really enjoy. And this is basically a very quick and easy way of allowing a team to build empathy around a specific audience, understand what the problem of the audience is, what the context of the challenges are, and why do we care about this.
It is an excellent tool for consultants for scoping. So if you have a new project, and if you already have a brief, doesn't matter, just make sure you run this workshop because clients will feel involved.
Yeah, we've seen amazing response to this, and this is super fun. Again, in 45 minutes, you get a lot of ground covered, and you're going to see just super fun overall. So let me give you an example of how this empathy waterfall looks like. So everything starts with who is having the problem, right? And we have an example here with the person trying to buy a car. So who is having the problem? People who want to buy a car. And what do we know about them? They're a mid-range salary. They have a mid-range salary and like traveling, right? We're gonna, this is basically the end result of the exercise, but we just wanted to give you an example. So who is having the problem? That information cascades like a waterfall to the next component, which is asking what is the problem? What is exactly the problem that the audience that we defined above is having? So the experience of buying a car through us is not optimal. Let's say it's a car dealership. Then you take that problem, and again, it cascades to the next level, which asks us about the context. Where and when does this problem occur? What is the overall context? So people complain about our website when browsing cars, and a lot of times we get bad feedback on the experience people have in our physical dealership. And then we cascade all of that information to the why component. And here we want to understand exactly why do we care about it from two perspectives, from the customer's point of view and our business point of view. And this is why it's called the empathy waterfall. Every single exercise kind of feeds the next one. And then in the end, you will have something like this. And as you've seen before, every single part of this waterfall has its own individual exercise. So who is having the problem? As you've seen before, individual work areas and voting. Same for what facts do we know about our audience? We want to dive deeper. We really want to build empathy with these people. So again, individual work areas with clear instructions along with voting. What is the problem about? This is the fun part, because we bring our audience here and then we start brainstorming what the problem is about. And as you're already familiar, you kind of see the same pattern repeating. You have the individual work areas and the voting. And you've guessed it, it happens exactly the same for all of the components of the waterfall. When and where does the problem occur? And people brainstorm in silence. It's just such a nice feeling to have people focus. No one is watching Netflix. No one is talking on top of someone else. There's no back and forth, because the only place where conversation happens is here in the voting area, because people might have questions. Maybe they don't understand what problem or what did someone mean on the sticky note. And this is the only time where people get a chance to discuss on the work that they've already done. And by having the voting sessions, we give everyone the chance to express their opinion on, let's say, who our audience is, what their problem, what their biggest problems are. And that way, as going through, and the last exercises are exactly the same, in the end, you'll have to take all the top voted sticky notes and fill in your own waterfall. And this will basically allow you to create something that people in the UX field call a problem statement. And a problem statement is everything they basically can use in order to start coming up with ideas and coming up with solutions. But of course, making sure you always think about the design thinking process and doing research, both primary and secondary. So again, these workshops are here to help you in certain situations in your process.
This is actually an excellent workshop if you want to run a design sprint and you want to do some preparation before. This is actually an excellent workshop, and it's very efficient and quite short.
Yeah, we always do this as preparation of a design sprint. And with that, we're done with our presentation. Keep in mind the remote design sprint is here. If you click on this link, you can go ahead and check it out and learn more about the design sprint. And remember, we have the videos here. And now we want to do a very fun exercise. We're actually going to use Miro's voting feature. So everyone, please join us in Miro if you're not there already. And I'm just going to start a voting session so you can see exactly how that works. So I'm just going to say mood check. And what you're seeing here is basically our way of making sure how you feel about this. And we do this every time in our workshops. So everyone's going to get one vote. We're going to only select this area here with the emojis. So tell us how you feel right now. You can only vote on text. So let me just make the settings here. Everyone ready? Join us in Miro because we're going to start a voting session. Choose the emoji that best represents the way you feel right now about this session, this event, this activity that we did now. All right, everyone ready? We're going to give you only 1 minute. So I'm going to start the voting session now. And now you should be able, you just click the vote now button that just popped on your screen. Just go ahead and click on the emoji that best represents the way you feel. And if you want to undo it, you can just click again on the same box. So let's see what people are doing here. No, do not replace our emojis.
Control Z, Control Z. Undo,
yeah,
undo.
Undo. We had no idea you can do that. Actually, never happened.
Well, now you can be only, super excited or mega excited.
Yeah, I have 20 more seconds. Let's see how this goes.
No, another emoji disappeared.
No. So Zara, can you please Command Z or Control Z? Because we seem to have lost the emojis. Oh, thank you. All right, 3, 2, 1, and the timer is up. Now let's see the results. So this is basically how we take the pulse of the room in a workshop to see how people feel. And we do this every single time. So it's processing the results. Let's see what we have here. Fingers crossed. All right, cool. Seems to be in the positive side of things. Awesome. Thank you, folks, for taking part in this activity. And with that, we thank you. And we're opening up for Q&A. And let me stop the screen share. Woo! Awesome. I need a glass of water now. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for following us. Let's we're open for questions. Go ahead. Feel free to open up your microphone, ask us directly. We really like that. Boom. Perfect. I saw a few questions in the chat. So if you want to ask your questions again, that would be great, because it seems that we kind of lost it in the chat. There's a lot of links and a lot of questions here.
Yeah. Hi, I have a question.
Yes, yeah. Annie, please.
Hi. So I was wondering, how do you kind of facilitate workshops within a team, but also participate? I'm just currently working on some projects that only have 3 designers and 1 dev. And I'm finding that our meetings are going like really off track. We meet for like an hour and a half, but really I feel like we can just meet for like maybe 30 to 45 minutes. Right. So just how can I facilitate these workshops, but also participate in them as well?
Want to take it?
Yeah, I can take this one. So for example, if you use Miro, you see that you have their instructions and you can create your own structures and your own activities. And if you have instructions and you explain them very clearly, but you can also start adding your own, private space there, like your own individual workspace. So when you actually give them a task to do, you can also participate. Simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and it highly depends on the type of activity. There are certain activities that you really need to be the facilitator, and you really need to kind of make sure that people are going through the activity the right way. And sometimes you really don't have the time. I mean, the two of us, the way we approach it is one of us is facilitating and the other one is kind of joining and taking part of the actual activities. Right. So yeah, hope that answered your question. Any other questions, folks? Yes. Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourselves, or if you just feel more comfortable, put it in the chat. So someone asked, will we have access to the templates afterwards? Yes, Sylvia will send out an email to everyone who was here with the template links, because you cannot really just copy and paste them from the board that we've seen. So we really want to give you the templates and actually be able to use them and load them in your own Miro environment. And then another question, is it possible to practice graphic design without a university degree in that specific program? Sorry, Zara, I don't think that is on the topic. So can you tell us a little bit more about what kind in that specific program? If you can tell us what that is about, maybe we can help you. But in the meantime, let's take the next question. How to start working from home after only worked in agencies? Again, a little out of topic. So I guess in the context of workshops, first thing you can do is get a tool like Miro and start promoting the workshops in your network. Explore some workshops, maybe even join our program where you get a chance to practice this. So yeah. So how would you structure a kickoff workshop?
Excellent question.
Yeah, great question. Depends what kind of project you're about to start. So kickoff means that you're about to start something. So depending on the kind of activity that you're about to do, if we're about to kick off a design sprint, we would do one kind of workshop. Let's say the empathy waterfall, right? If you want to do
for the North Star metric or any other product strategy workshops that we have a different format, for workshops to scope out what they need.
Yeah,
it's a pretty similar format. We just ask different questions.
Yeah, exactly. So we also have a question. What if the company you're working for doesn't allow Miro? Do you have any real alternatives? Very common question. What happens in these scenarios? Basically, any cloud-based tool, if they cannot use Miro, they're not going to be be able to use any other kind of virtual whiteboard, Mural, even Figma. I mean, they're still cloud-based apps. So
There's Google Jamboard as well, but
Google has this thing called
Yeah.
Jamboard right now, which again, it's still cloud-based. So it's all about you need a digital canvas. You need a place where people can actually come in and contribute. Without that, it's very, very
Oracle
hard.
has a nice solution. I think.
Which one?
Oracle.
Yeah, Oracle has a whiteboard. Microsoft Teams has their kind of their own version of a canvas which you can use. So just ask them what they MS Whiteboard. There you go. That's it. So is Miro the only tool or main tool that you use for workshops?
Us, yes, it is the only and the main tool.
Yeah,
Miro. But there are also other alternatives out there, of course.
Yeah, we love Miro. We've just been using it ever since it was called Real-Time Board. We've been using it for a long time. We love it. We love the folks there. They're great. That's it. Whimsical is also a great option. So how do you compare this workshop that you are promoting to Lightning Decision Jam by AJ and Smart? Okay, so huge love to AJ and Smart. We love them. We love everything that they're doing. It's the Lightning Decision Jam is just another type of workshop. It's just another
There's no
flavor.
Good or bad, which one is good or worse. It's just a different flavor and it has different outcomes.
Exactly. I mean, we also use the Lightning Decision Jam. Sometimes it feels like the Lightning Decision Jam just works great for a specific project, but we also have our own kind of personal flavors, things that we've discovered work really, really well. So there's no really room for comparing, to be honest, because it's a different workshop with a different kind of process, right? It may happen that 3 or 4 workshops have the same desired outcome, but the way you reach that outcome can differ from one scenario to another. So Anna, this one's for you.
Utilize the Google Sprint Playbook as possible workshop activities depending on where you are in the design thinking process. So the question is if you can use some activities from the sprint in other circumstances. Absolutely. We actually do that ourselves. So if we don't have to run a full-fledged, workshop or process like the design sprint, then we just extract certain activities and we just run them with our clients.
Yeah, I know, John, if you were here right early in the presentation, because you actually showed how we see the design sprint and how it basically takes some methods from the design thinking toolkit and just puts them in a specific structure. So hopefully if you've seen that, there's a video in the Miro board which you can watch that shows exactly that actually the design sprint is nothing else but a set of design thinking based activities time boxed and put into a day-by-day format. That's all it is.
So how do you get buy-in from stakeholders to hold, that one.
Yeah.
So how do you summarize the results from the workshop for the participants or for other stakeholders that need the outcome? So first of all, we give them access to the board, but of course we want to make an executive summary after each workshop. And this is highly depending on the tools that they use. So we prefer Notion. Everything, from the workshop goes into Notion, summarized way, of course. But if they don't have access to Notion, it can be a Google Doc or something that they can get access to.
Exactly. Next question. How do you get buy-in from stakeholders to hold, keeps jumping. How do you get buy-in from stakeholders to hold workshops when they're used to running meetings after meetings? Well, honestly, typically what happens, people come to us because they already hate meetings. So as we said,
Explain the benefits.
when the meeting is the headache, the workshop is the aspirin or the painkiller. So when we really need to get buy-in, we tell people that's the way we work. We don't do random meetings. Everything we do is structured. Everything we do has a beginning, has an end, and has a clear goal.
Or my question is, why do you need to get buy-in? Why don't just, organize the workshop or the session and just, play it out with them and see how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, you can use let's say the empathy waterfall in your next, let's say, client discovery, or you need to kick off a project and really need to understand what the challenges are. Just go to your manager and say, hey, how about we try something different? That's how we actually did our first design sprint. I had a client, we've been working with them for 2.5 years, and we discovered the sprint. We had no way of actually practicing it with a real client. And we told this client, hey, how about we do a workshop? You don't need to pay us for this. We're just doing on our own time. We just need you in the room and your team. And he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And ever since we did that design sprint, every single time we needed to work on a new feature, or kickstart another project, we would use the design sprint. They completely fell in love with it. And now we're trying to replicate that with other kinds of workshop, that same kind of impressed feeling and excitement around work, which sometimes can get a little bit lost.
Yeah, or if you think that the word workshop might scare them off because they think that might be something more complex or adding complexity to the whole situation, then just don't use it and just tell them that in this next meeting or next session, we're going to do it things a bit different in a structured way and just go and run.
Yeah, we're going to do
run.
a structured work session, and that can just go. And typically, your stakeholders are going to be open to that if you bring in some kind of structure. I mean, it happens to us all the time where we meet, like, let's say, a very, very kind of a big company that is used to meetings and never been exposed to workshops. We do it with one team, and then we end up having other teams for the company reaching out to us. Hey, I don't know what you did with this other folks, but everyone's really liking it. We want some of that. So that's kind of the flow. And it's really, really like, it's the worst comparison to use, but it's like a virus, right? This is the worst time to talk about something like this, but it really kind of spreads really quickly, but in a good way, because it makes work so much better. All right.
Where were we?
Actually, this one.
How do you deal with, it keeps jumping. How do you deal with a lot of input from, where was it?
How do you deal with a lot of input from work?
From the workshoppers during individual brainstorming when it's hard to digest to do the voting? Well, that's actually an excellent question. We do not have more than 7 participants per session. So we make sure that we don't have a lot of participants, and we try to make sure that we can actually keep the track, the people that we have in the workshop.
Yeah. I mean, and what happens, like, if people come up with, let's say, a lot of ideas or a lot of problems, what we try to do, we do clustering. We look at the sticky notes and try to find themes, because when you have a group of people, let's say 7 people, and they each write, I don't know, 10 sticky notes about a common topic, you're going to have duplicates. You're going to have things that look the same. So as a team, you basically analyze that huge pool of options and just find the patterns and try to delete some of the options that are duplicates. And that way you kind of reduce the volume.
We noticed that people starting that organically. So even without us telling them to do that, they just start, organizing stuff, and they just compile stuff.
Okay, I'll take this one. Okay. Maybe I missed this in the, Patricia, I think you wanted to say something. I hope I didn't butcher your name.
Yeah. Sorry, because that was my question, and I want to do the follow-up. I'm sorry if that was unpolite. My question was, is it okay, like, to the idea of the workshop, to do this individually, not at the workshop, like those grouping clusters? Because I think that would take a lot of time to do the grouping, and the time of those people is very valuable. So is it, like, okay? Do you think?
So what was the question again, please?
Should the clustering be done by the whole group, or can one facilitator, for example, do it?
Okay, got it. So we typically do it. We kind of manually group things, but we ask people
to help us out.
Yeah, we ask people to help. Do you see any common themes? That sticky note was the same with that sticky note. So it's basically mostly us kind of handling the moving of the sticky notes and grouping them together. We're the ones doing that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next question. Maybe I missed in the beginning of your presentation, but before the actual workshop, do you send out a preparation sheet with onboarding instructions, possible problems, how to prepare as a participant? Oh, yes. So every single workshop for us has 3 main components: preparation, running the workshop, and wrapping it up. And we actually have, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. All right, let me just show this to you, because I think it's really important. We always do preparation. And we actually have, let me just share my screen. I think it's important for you to see. So share, hide this. So this is the remote workshop checklist. This is something we use every single time when we do a workshop. What happens before, what happens during, and what happens after. And we basically have this thing called the workshop brief template. This is I'm not sure if I should be showing this, but this is actually our facilitation training that we do. And we have a workshop brief template. And inside this template, you have the teams, the stakeholders, the project context, the workshop you're going to be doing, the expectations, when stuff is going to happen, and what people need to do. And this is basically the document that everyone will receive. People who will come into the workshop, this is what they're going to get. And everyone knows exactly what's going to happen. Everyone knows when, where, with whom, and with what purpose. Everything is documented.
One super important aspect here: expect people not to read that document because we had several cases. So what you want to make sure is that when you start the workshop, you reiterate everything, you summarize everything that you mentioned in the document, and you make sure that you have also a Miro onboarding, so a tool onboarding with the participants to make sure that they know how to navigate the waters.
Yeah. And yeah, Patricia, another. Yeah,
Can you
you take?
replace every meeting with the workshop? Do you have a list of typical meetings that can be replaced with the workshop? I don't think that every meeting should be replaced with a workshop. However, I strongly believe that every online session can have a visual support. So for example,
Yeah.
even if you have a casual conversation with a colleague or something to, extracting some information or trying to reach a conclusion, you can use Miro just to write down some stuff, maybe. It doesn't have to turn into full-blown workshop.
Yeah. Kind of the smaller kinds of meetings that can be turned into a workshop. But let's say a sprint review. A sprint review can be done in a workshop format. It's just a little bit more interactive. But let's say we just need to get a meeting to look at 3 versions of a design and just decide which one. I mean, actually, you can actually do that in a workshop with voting.
If you have some visual support, you can definitely add that, but not necessarily turn it into a workshop. You could just add some, sticky notes, or maybe decide on the outcome and decide on how to get there. Something simple.
Yeah, we basically group workshops in 3 big categories: alignment workshops, strategy workshops, and co-creation workshops. And this basically can cover every single thing that you want to do. So if you want to do a sprint review and see how things have went, that's an alignment workshop. If you want to create something new, like a concept for a prototype or defining an MVP, you might do a design sprint, which is a co-creation workshop. Or if you want to, I don't know, plan your next quarter or do, let's say, a North Star metric workshop for your product strategy, you would do a strategy workshop. So these are kind of the big 3 categories.
For example, if you would just have to present some findings from user research or user interviews, then probably you just, go the classical way, have a presentation. Or even you can do that in Miro and just extract some key points. You can get really creative with the tool.
Yeah. Question: how do you deal with people
who are not interested in the topic workshop at all? Well, first of all, why are they in the first place?
Yeah. Remember how we talked about the 5 Ps, like the purpose, the people, the process, the product, and the preparation? If you have a clearly defined purpose, you should not talk to people. You should not even think about bringing people who have nothing to do with that, whether they're not interested or they don't know anything about the topic. That's I think, just one of the worst things that you can do, to bring in and bother someone who cannot really contribute or have no interest, right? So that's how you deal with the interest, and deal with people who are not interested in a workshop at all. Well, then in that case, if they don't like the idea of workshops, if that's what you're asking, then you can just tell them, hey, just try it out, see how this is different from a meeting. And that way you kind of let them kind of do a trial or a demo. And I don't think there's a scenario where someone told us, oh, I hate working in a workshop format, this sucks. Never really happened. I mean, did it? Never really. No one ever.
No, we actually the
us,
opposite.
Yeah.
So how do you handle technical problems with the participants? Do you have any other ways to just continue or try another date? Actually, we do face a lot of technical issues, even ourselves. So it's not only the participant that can have a technical issue, but we try to first of all make sure that we communicate before the workshop what they need to do. So for example, if they need to share the camera, they need a laptop, they cannot join from their mobile phone or tablet, they're going to need to work from their PC or laptop. That's one thing we always try to recommend, not to work from a coffee shop. Well, not that right now, that's not possible, at least in Romania anymore. So we always recommend to be in, either in an office or home where there's a quiet space, and also make sure that they have good internet connection. But if someone gets lost along the way, when they come back, or you try to get them back, when they come back, you can just, brief them shortly. But I don't think that the full team in a workshop, we never had the case like that where we lost everyone and we had to reschedule.
Yeah. But worst case scenario, if it really, like, I don't know, the other day something happened to us. Luckily, we didn't have a workshop, but the internet in the entire building just completely disappeared. And
the thing with our mobile data.
Yeah. You can always kind of go to like mobile data, create a hotspot or something like that. But if it's really, really impossible and you as a facilitator cannot join, then it is a good idea to kind of reschedule.
One quick intervention that you can do. So let's say that your power gets cut off. Just make sure that you send an email quickly from your phone and just let them know people don't go anywhere. I'm going to come back soon. So that's one thing to, to solve it.
Right.